Discuss this development further is Negar Mortazavi, a political analyst and host of the Iran podcast. Negar, thank you for being with us. So Trump, as we've been reporting, has just in the last hour declared everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. What do you make of those comments?
I mean, I'm shocked. This is a metropolis of nearly 10 million people. And from the events of the past 2-3 days since the Israeli attack started, some residents have already been terrified and alarmed and were trying to leave the city, Tehran. Those who have homes in other cities or family they can go stay with, and this is just a lucky few. And I've been in touch with some on the ground. It took them hours in gas station lines to fill up their tanks to leave the city, and then hours and hours to just drive out of the city in very congested traffic of roads where other people are trying to get out of the city. And this is a day before the Israelis ordered evacuation from a large neighborhood in northern Tehran, and also before the president just posted this. I don't know how serious this is. Is it being alarmist? Is it being realistic? I don't know what to make of this, but it just sounds very apocalyptic if you want to take the president seriously, because at the end of the day, he's the president of the United States. And then also at the same time, I don't know if his posts and his sort of alarmist language should be taken at face value. But just to imagine a city of 10 million to immediately evacuate, I don't even know what that means, immediate by the hour, by the day, is just an impossible thing to ask.
And Negar, Trump has been calling for Iran for the last few days to sign a deal. He's also appeared to view the conflict as a form of negotiation to push Iran to the table. And as you mentioned now, throwing out this declaration on his social media account that everyone in a city, as you say, of 10 million should evacuate. Is this another negotiation tactic? And if so, what do you make of that?
I mean, it's possible. This is something the president is known of, sort of a bluff or an exaggeration via Twitter. This is something that he's done in the past with, for example, North Korea. He's done it with other countries. But I think I just want to call this very irresponsible, because these are real lives, real civilians. We're talking about 10 million people, women, children, elderly, sick people. You know, not everybody has the same mobility. This is not a video game. This is real people's lives we're talking about that are on the line. Evacuation of a city like that in itself can have deadly causes for people who are caught trying to get out. So I don't know how to seriously take this, but what we know is that Israel has military superiority in the region above everyone, and they have shown since day one of these attacks that they're also targeting residences and civilians. The civilian death toll in Iran is now over 200. It's not just military, it's not just nuclear and political targets. And also, if the U.S. is getting pulled into this, I don't know if we should read that from the president's tweet. If the U.S. is getting pulled into this, then it can have very, very severe consequences for civilians who are in harm's way. If it's a negotiating tactic, I don't think this is the way to negotiate. Negotiation should happen in the negotiating room. But if this is a tactic, it would go along with his previous comments that he wants to deal with Iran. He has tried negotiations, which he actually did before Israel started attacking Iran. The last round of negotiations, the most recent, was scheduled for this past Sunday in Oman, but the Iranians called it off when their nuclear program and their cities started being bombed. So I think the off-ramp here is for the U.S. to call for an immediate ceasefire. They have a lot of leverage on the Israeli side. The Iranians have said if Israel stops the attacks, they would stop retaliation, and then to just immediately return back to the negotiating table and try to resolve at least the nuclear issue from through diplomacy.
And we've also, Negar, seen reports today that Tehran, through some of the Gulf states, has asked them to pressure President Trump to return to negotiating. Both sides seeming like they would like to return to diplomacy. But, I mean, how weakened will Tehran be if those talks do resume, given the losses they've suffered in the last few days?
Well, they're extremely weakened. I mean, their network of allies, the axis of resistance across the region, have taken major tolls. That was part of Tehran's forward defense or strategic death. Hezbollah decapitated, the Assad regime fell in Syria, Hamas very weakened, and the Houthis as well. So Iran doesn't have these allies to rely on. They don't have the weaponry and the military power to match Israel, and certainly not the United States. So they are very weak. That doesn't mean that they can't fight back. We also see a sort of a unifying factor of people getting serious about defending the homeland and really being opposed to sort of these foreign attacks on their, especially homes and residences. You know, nobody wants to be bombed when they're sleeping with their family. So as far as that, I don't know if this is another regime change war that the U.S. wants to get pulled in, or let Israel pull them in like Iraq and Afghanistan. American people have no interest and no appetite for that. But if they're going back to the negotiating table, I think the Iranians also should really reconsider their position and be prepared to make very serious concessions, because this is how Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, wants things to go, which is the opposite to diplomacy, more conflict and expanding war in the region. And if the Iranians don't want this, I think they should be able to be prepared to make very serious concessions and take the chance and opportunity to make a deal with the Trump administration, which is something that President Trump, I think, has been wanting. He just hasn't been able to deliver it yet.
And Negar, Netanyahu has called for the assassination of the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, not seeming today to be backing down from those statements. I mean, how likely is it, do you think, that Israel may choose to do that? And what would the consequences of that be?
I mean, from what we've seen in the past 3 days, I don't want to say never or impossible to anything. The Israelis have just taken this to a whole new level, and I don't know if they even realize the consequences of this for years to come. First of all, Israel cannot sustain an open war with Iran without the support of the U.S. and its allies. So the United States here is being seen by the Iranians as, if not direct, at least indirect or an implicit participation in the war. We know, at least in the defense, it's the U.S. and allies who are helping Israel intercept the Iranian missiles and the drones, etc. And again, the serious issue here is that the American public, poll after poll, has shown that there's no appetite for another regime change war in the Middle East. The Americans see Afghanistan and Iraq as failures, as failed examples. One thing was promised, another thing happened. 20 years, 2 decades of blood and money invested, American blood, American money for no return. It just brought more instability and chaos and conflict in the region. It seems to be what the Israeli prime minister wants, but I don't think that's what the American public want. And if the U.S. administration, President Trump's administration, does get pulled, allow the U.S. to get pulled into this war, I think this will have very serious consequences also for their political career, and of course for the U.S., who will be tied down in another major war in the Middle East. And, you know, just to mention, Iran is a large country, much bigger than Iraq, very populous, 80 million people. This is not a piece of cake. And so, yes, they don't have the weaponry, but we are seeing sort of this unifying aspect of people getting the sense that the homeland is now under attack.
Negar Mortazavi, political analyst and host of the Iran podcast, thank you so much for your time and analysis.
Thank you.